In my last video, we started things off on this topic, so today we are here to finish it off. Basically, we're running through all 30 NBA teams, grading how their off seasons have gone down compared to their realistic expectations and what they needed based on their goals. Not every team is capable of hitting a home run, and other teams can successfully sit back and watch, but others simply cannot afford that. And all of this is being taken into account into the grades today. We ran through the teams in the Eastern Conference in my last video, so we will be finishing things off by going through the Western Conference teams today. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I'd also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. Going in alphabetical order, we'll start with the Dallas Mavericks, and the grade for their offseason is a strong A. The Mavericks made a run to the finals and then came out this summer showing they're not satisfied with being runners-up, highlighted by their acquisition of Klay Thompson to bring in his sharpshooting alongside the playmaking of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. They also made one of the best low-key signings of the offseason as well when they brought in Najee Marshall, who is an elite perimeter defender who also knocked down 39% of his threes last season. Spencer Dinwiddie is getting one last chance with them on a minimum low-stakes deal. They traded Tim Hardaway Jr. for 3-and-D player Quentin Grimes, and overall, this should be an improved group next season. Next is the Denver Nuggets, and the grade for their offseason is a C. The Nuggets took a step backward last season after winning it all in 2023, and this offseason they didn't come out with nearly enough urgency to get back on track. They sat back and watched as the Magic stole their starting shooting guard Kentavious Caldwell-Pope after already being a team without much notable depth, and they're relying heavily on Russell Westbrook as a signing to carry the burden for them off the bench, which in the year 2024 just doesn't seem like the safest strategy. Their only other notable addition was Dario Saric, so they're once again going to be a thin group relying way too much on Nikola Jokic. Next is the Golden State Warriors, and the grade for their offseason is a C+. The Warriors are still trying to get back into contention during Steph Curry's final few prime years, but I'm just not sold on the moves that they made being enough to do that. They waived Chris Paul, they allowed Klay Thompson to leave in free agency, and in their places, the team brought in Buddy Hield and DeAnthony Melton, and neither are necessarily huge upgrades. Hield was nearly unplayable down the stretch of last season, outside of one red-hot playoff game, and Melton's nagging back issues are a real concern. Next is the Houston Rockets, and the grade for their offseason is a B-. The Rockets didn't necessarily do a whole lot, but early on it is looking like drafting Reed Sheppard at number 3 overall in the draft is going to be a huge hit. They're relying on their young talent continuing to develop, which is a very valid strategy, but it's not worthy of that high of a grade either. Next is the Los Angeles Clippers, and the grade for their offseason is a C+. The Clippers losing Paul George in free agency definitely hurts, there's no two ways about it. They did bring in guys like Nico Batum and Derrick Jones Jr. to bolster their front court though, so they're not left helpless there, and they also re-signed James Harden for 2 more seasons, so they will definitely still be competitive, but it's clear that there will be a drop-off for them as they enter in their first season in their new stadium. Next is the Los Angeles Lakers, and the grade for their offseason is a C-. Re-signing LeBron James is really the only truly established bright spot for their summer because after a disappointing first-round exit from the playoffs, they haven't really done much else. They drafted Dalton Knecht in the first round, who could end up being a huge steal, but besides that, there are no newcomers entering their rotation at all, having made no notable free agency signings or trades. Next is the Memphis Grizzlies, and the grade for their offseason is a D+. The Grizzlies are another team coming off of a down year, which was admittedly due to injuries and suspensions, but this offseason, the only thing they did was draft Zach Edey at number 9 overall, which could end up feeling like a huge reach in hindsight. They also re-signed Luke Kennard, but their faith is fully in the fact that Ja Morant will be coming back healthy to save the day, and in a loaded Western Conference, that is a bold strategy. Next is the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the grade for their offseason is a B. The Timberwolves had 2 first-round picks to use this year, and early on both selections are showing a ton of promise. Rob Dillingham and Terrence Shannon Jr. provide a level of playmaking that they desperately needed more of in their backcourt, and can ease into the NBA off the bench early on in their careers. They did lose Kyle Anderson and Jordan McLaughlin, but neither were playing all that much in the playoffs anyway. Next is the New Orleans Pelicans, and the grade for their offseason is a B-. The Pelicans made a big early splash trading away Dyson Daniels and Larry Nance Jr. for DeJounte Murray, but besides that, their summer has been underwhelming. They also lost Jonas Valanciunas in free agency and have yet to replace him unless rookie Yves Missy is NBA ready from the get-go, and Najee Marshall also left the team for the Clippers in free agency just to make things worse. Next is the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the grade for their offseason is a B+. To put it simply, the Thunder took care of business this offseason. They traded away Josh Giddey, who struggled mightily in the second round of the playoffs, for Alex Caruso, who will provide even more elite perimeter defense for their lineup. They then signed Isaiah Hartenstein after a huge breakout season in New York to lock things down inside and play alongside Chet Holmgren, making it even more difficult for the opposition to score inside with those two lurking. Drafting Nikola Topic in the first round could also be a steal long-term when he recovers from his injury. Re-signing Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins was good business, and overall they did what they needed to do. Next is the Phoenix Suns, and the grade for their offseason is a B+. The Suns honestly did really well this offseason given their constraints money-wise. They re-signed Royce O'Neal and Josh Okogie on the wing, they managed to sign Tyus Jones for a very cheap deal somehow despite him being good enough to start on some NBA teams, and he will come in and serve a key role at a huge position of need, as the Suns desperately needed point guard help last year, and they also brought in Mason Plumlee for some big man depth, with is a lot of improvement for what they had to offer. Next is the Portland Trailblazers, and the grade for their offseason is a B. The Blazers are still rebuilding, but trading Malcolm Brogdon for Deni Avdija was definitely good business to fit more on the timeline, and drafting Donovan Clingan in the lottery bolsters their interior as they maneuver what they want to do about DeAndre Ayton's future with the team, so overall, they were smart about how they went about things. Next is the Sacramento Kings, and the grade for their offseason is an A-. The Kings seem to be flying under the radar, but I'm a big fan of what they did this summer. They acquired DeMar DeRozan to give them another outstanding option on offense, and he's their third option nonetheless. They successfully re-signed Malik Monk after it seemed as though he was destined to leave the team in free agency, and they drafted Devin Carter in the lottery, who should fit in very well as a stout perimeter defender, and he's ready to contribute in bunches right away as one of the older players from the draft. Up next is the San Antonio Spurs, and the grade for their offseason is a B+. The Spurs are another rebuilding group, so the expectation isn't necessarily to make deep runs yet, but for the time being, they did what they had to do to help Victor Wembanyama progress as a talent. Signing Chris Paul will do wonders for his game, because if there's one thing Paul can still do at his age, it's feed big men for easy looks, and last season the Spurs desperately needed better passing talent running the offense. They also brought in Harrison Barnes for a veteran presence in the lineup, and drafting Stephon Castle 4th overall is a project worth monitoring too. And finally, the last team up is the Utah Jazz, and the grade for their offseason is a B. Yet another rebuilding group focused mostly on the progression of their young talent. They drafted Cody Williams and Isaiah Collier in the first round to add even more talent to that group. The biggest thing they did was give Lauri Markkanen a contract extension after there being a lot of chatter about him potentially leaving in a trade, so to lock him up long-term gives them a cornerstone to build around without worry of him leaving. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below how you would grade these team summers. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.